Won't watch a single one until y'all nut up and drop a Wolves video. Timberwolves next, please. Still no Wolves video, huh? Cowards. Interesting how you talk about the other threats in the Western Conference, but you don't mention the Timberwolves. Do something about the Timberwolves. Make a Timberwolves video. 2 Clippers videos in 2 weeks and still no Wolves video? Come on, fellas. Hoping for some sort of Wolves video soon. This one's for you, Adam. Before we start talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves, if you haven't already, make sure you leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So the Wolves last year probably made the biggest trade of like the NBA offseason when they swapped out Pat Bev, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, Walker Kessler, 4 first-round picks, and a first-round pick swap for Rudy Gobert. We were both hypercritical of this trade when it first happened. Like, I remember seeing some people be like, oh, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, are y'all fucking crazy? They gave up like 3 starters, a rookie, and essentially 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert.
Still a terrible trade.
Yeah, I think so.
An awful trade, but at the same time, maybe the Timberwolves were ahead of the curve because nowadays the NBA is dominated by Jokic, you got Giannis, even Embiid, and they got Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, like, they got some decent bigs.
Yeah, their regular season last year, though, it was just marked by injuries and inconsistency. I mean, Cat only played 29 games. Even in the games he did play, the fit with Gobert, it was kind of just an awkward one. They had another big trade at the trade deadline. This time they were part of the trade that helped send Russell Westbrook out of LA. Really, they fleeced in this trade, though. They sent out D'Lo, they got back Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and 3 second-round picks.
Yeah, that's a great trade. I mean, you send out D'Lo, and D'Lo's a solid offensive player, but not the fit they needed. You get Mike Conley, just an absolute great veteran.
Basically just a more consistent D'Lo.
Really great leader. A guy, I think he's literally never gotten a technical his entire career, which is insane.
Still, though, they got bounced in 5 by the Nuggets in the first round. I think given how much they gave up for the Gobert trade, this season was kind of seen not quite as a failure, but definitely a disappointment.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a bit unfair to them. We got to give him like Cat being out all that time. Like him and Gobert never really had the time to gel together and work out. So neither of us really had high expectations for this team. Maybe like 4th seed at the best, 5th seed. Outside of Anthony Edwards, we were both very high on him. I think we expected them, to get a little bit better in terms of the record, but nothing like crazy. I mean, ESPN projected them at 43 wins, Vegas at 46.5, and I think that's basically where we had them as well.
Yeah, I thought they would get marginally better, but I was still very hesitant of the Gobert-Cat fit. I mean, Cat this offseason, he was in like trade rumors.
For Julius Randle, that was one of them.
Oh boy.
Hey, Julius Randle been playing decent recently.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's still an awful trade.
20 games into the season, though, and the Timberwolves currently have the best record in the NBA. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They just knocked off a Spurs in the Battle of the Tall Frenchmen, and their defense this year has been lights out. They have the best defensive rating in the NBA. They lead the NBA in opponents' points per game. They lead the NBA in opponents' effective field goal percentage. And you know what? For as much shit as we gave the Rudy Gobert trade when it first happened, like you said, the Wolves were on to something because he's gonna win Defensive Player of the Year at this rate.
Oh yeah, he's definitely gonna win at this point. And outside of him, Jaden McDaniels, he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. You got Ant's a solid defender, Naz Reid, Mike Conley. The entire roster basically is filled with guys who can defend inside, outside. They got everything.
And that's even with Jaden McDaniels missing 8 games this year. Dude's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and they're doing all this without him, basically.
Yeah, and huge shout out to Rudy Gobert. I mean, I don't know if he directly said it, but there was always the thing where basically the reason the Jazz couldn't defend the playoffs, he was like, people can't defend on the perimeter, so I get switched on these guys. Now he's got guys who can defend on the perimeter, and it's looking pretty damn good.
Also, I feel like everyone's kind of forgetting his whole COVID thing where he was touching the mics and like, he was the whole reason that shit got kicked off, and now everyone's just like, yeah, that's far enough away now.
That's in the past, and he's hooping well. Who cares at this point?
On the offensive end, the Wolves are just okay. I mean, they've got the 15th best offensive rating in the NBA. Still, though, Anthony Edwards, he's looking like he's taking the leap. He's averaging 26 points per game. He's shooting 46% from the field. He's shooting right around 38% from 3. Cat is back, and he's healthy, and he's productive again. He's giving him 22 points per game, 9 boards, 50% shooting from the field, 41% shooting from 3. And And, they just kind of pick up points from guys like, Gobert and Naz Reid, Mike Conley, Jay McDaniels. I gotta say, Mike Conley, he's been exactly what the doctor ordered for this team at the point guard position.
Oh yeah, he's a perfect fit, plays defense, can hit an open three, and then just takes care of the basketball. How about 6.2 assists per game to only 0.9 turnovers?
Crazy.
Not even one turnover a game from this guy every night. That's insane.
It's consistency.
Yeah, and I love Naz Reid off the bench. Maybe the best offensive big off the bench. I mean, Bobby Portis is up there too. He had this one play against the Spurs on Wednesday where he cooked Wemby with a hezzy. For some reason, I just love watching Naz Reid play.
Well, he cooked Wemby with the hezzy and then threw it down.
Yeah, that's what he does. They're not even a bad shooting team. They're like 11th in 3-point percentage?
13th.
They just really don't take a ton though.
I think it's because they're taking good threes.
Yeah, they are.
There's not a team of chuckers. They're not just going to chuck threes just to chuck threes. Like, they're going to take threes if they get good open shots. Also, they've been exceptionally good against the best teams in the NBA. I mean, they've got wins over Boston. They've got wins over Denver. They're 8-2 against teams that are 500 or better. Also, they got 2 wins on the road in Golden State. Golden State's not over 500, but I mean, it's still a tough place to play against a championship team. I mean, compared to a team like the Mavericks, who we talked about, a couple videos ago, who also had a really good start, but their schedule was pretty lightweight. The Wolves have some pretty good wins against the other contenders of the NBA.
I mean, that's what happens when you play good defense. You can beat good teams. You look at a team like the Sacramento Kings, and not to throw shade on them, but they were super hyped up last year. They had the best offense, of all time.
It happens once a year at this point.
Yeah, and then they came into the playoffs, and they did push the Warriors to 7, but they went out in the first round. I think the Timberwolves, this style of play, a defensive team matches up way better against actual contenders.
Yeah, and you look at the Kings last year, what happened to them in Game 7? Couldn't stop Steph at all.
Yeah, and their shots weren't falling.
Dude put up 50 points on them, and when they needed to make shots, they couldn't, and when they needed to stop Steph, they couldn't.
One of the concerns, though, about this Timberwolves team, you gotta say it, they still are on the younger side with some of their players. They don't really have a lot of deep playoff experience. I mean, you got Gobert, made to the conference finals. Conley, he's been around. He's a great leader, so I'll give him that. But outside of that, some of the main guys, Cat's been there a few times, and then Anthony Edwards just had his first playoff experience. Can they really go deep into the playoffs and have that experience to win a title?
I mean, they don't have a single player on their roster who's even made the NBA Finals.
That's big.
Also, you got to worry about someone suffering an injury, and I know this is a concern for every team, but if you look at the Wolves, I mean, Cat missed most of last season with an injury. Mike Conley struggled to stay healthy a little bit over the past 5 seasons. Jaden McDaniels, he's already missed some games. Ant just picked up a hip injury. It needs to be said, if one of their main pieces gets hit with a long-term injury, that's tough. But, that's also kind of a concern for every team.
This team, though, most importantly in the Western Conference playoffs, they match up extremely well with Denver. Obviously, you got Gobert, you got Cat, you got Naz Reid. They got the front court size. They got the guys to throw at Jokic. But they did get bounced in 5, obviously, last year by the Nuggets, but they held Jokic to his lowest points per game, his lowest rebounds per game, and his lowest field goal percentage out of any team in the playoffs. And the Nuggets players basically said that was their toughest matchup the entire playoff run last year.
I remember you brought that up to me and I had to think about it for a second. I was just like, well, they swept the Lakers. They beat the Heat in 5 pretty easily. I mean, I guess the Suns, but they flattened the Suns in their last game. And you look at their games against the Wolves, outside of game 1, which was a blowout, all the other games were pretty damn close. And I agree with what you said earlier. I think this team is more built for playoff success than a team like a Sacramento. It's because they play great defense. Candidly, great defense is more consistent and replicable than great offense. If you're a great offense, you can have nights where your shots just aren't falling. If you're a great defensive team, though, you're going to be a great defensive team basically every night. It's not just there's a night where you guys we're terrible on defense tonight, right? we don't have it tonight on defense. That's not really a thing.
Not at all. And the other thing is, they're not just a great defensive team. They're basically, at this point, a great defensive team with a superstar level player. So some defensive teams come playoff time, they just got no one to take over. You need a bucket during a stretch. This team comes down the 4th quarter. Anthony Edwards can take over a playoff game and flat out just win it for them.
And we mentioned it a little bit earlier, outside of Ant, it's not like their offense is ranked 25th. They're 8th in the NBA in field goal percentage. They're 13th in 3-point percentage. They're not a bad offensive team by any means. They're a serviceable offensive team, and they play complementary offensive basketball. I mean, they're 19th in pace, so they're not running up and down the floor, taking bad shots. They slow the game down. They take good shots, and they got a balanced offense. They got a point guard who can facilitate and play defense. They got their superstar from the perimeter. They got a star down low. They got depth on the bench. Their offense isn't bad by any means. It just is complimentary.
So we've been hyping up the Timberwolves throughout this entire video. They got the best record in the league, but I gotta ask, are they legit contenders right now?
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I kind of think they are.
That's fair.
I kind of think they are. Now, am I gonna pick them to win the title? No. But can they be one of the final 4 teams? I think so.
I think absolutely. If they can make the conference finals, that's a big W. And then you get there, like, you hate to see it, but maybe like Jokic or Murray goes down or something happens. This team, I wouldn't be completely shocked if they made the finals, but I think conference finals, second round is where I'm projecting them right now.
But they're playing well right now. And I swear to God, if we jinx them and they lose to the fucking Memphis Grizzlies in about, what, like 9 hours from the time this video goes up, I'm gonna be fucking furious. Minnesota, y'all are playing really well right now. Don't let us down.
This happened like 4 times in a row. It's gonna happen, of course. The only time it didn't happen was the Detroit Pistons, and they fucking sucked, so of course they're gonna keep losing. But every time we hype a team up, they immediately lose.
Or we tear a team down and they win.
Yeah, so they're probably gonna lose tonight. It's just gonna, I'm sorry, Timberwolves fans.
That's the video, guys. How far do you think the Timberwolves can go this year? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.